If you have a 2 or a 3-year-old and you're thinking about sending your little one to preschool, then you're going to want to stick around. Today, I'm going to be talking about preschool readiness skills that you can already start working on with your toddler to ensure that when they do start preschool, they're going to be ready and have a great experience. Let's get to it. So I wanted to talk about preschool readiness because I think a lot of times parents focus on the academics of preschool. They want their child to go into preschool already knowing colors, letters, shapes, and numbers. And I'm going to tell you, as somebody who's been working in early childhood for almost 25 years and who's been in preschool classrooms with preschool teachers, those are not the things that they're worried about little ones being able to do when they start in school. So I polled a bunch of preschool teachers that I've worked with over the years and asked them for their top preschool readiness skills that they would like to see children be able to do when they walk through the door of preschool. So let's start. So the first skill is being able to follow directions. Now, I talk a lot about this in my speech videos, how important it is for us to work with young children on following directions, identifying objects, listening skills. Listening is a skill that's trained. So we want to make sure that when your toddler transitions and is ready to start in a preschool environment as a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, that they have a strong understanding and ability to follow directions. They should be able to do things like go get your backpack and hang it up. Take your tray and empty it into the trash can. Okay, so work on those listening skills and ability to follow directions. Doing so now with your young toddler is going to make it easier for them when they go into a preschool environment. Next up, your child should be able to listen to a short story. Now, lots of you are doing story time with your children, but I know that some of you are struggling because maybe you've got a little one who just isn't so interested in books or they don't like to sit still. I will refer you to my video on reading to toddlers for some tips on that. But we would expect that a preschooler would be able to sit for a short story. Most preschools, when they start with 3-year-olds at least, are doing a very short circle time. It's maybe one story and then some questions and some music and just getting them used to the idea that at this time during the class, we're going to sit down. I've had many parents over the years as we've gone on tours say, my child is never going to be able to sit like that for a story time. But a lot of times when we're doing the tour, we're doing it at the end of the school year. And the kids who are sitting at that circle time so sweetly and nicely and politely, we're not doing that when they started. So you can practice this by doing some short stories with your child, following their lead. Over time and with practice, their interest in staying longer and longer will develop. Also, make sure you check out your local libraries because they always do great story times. Next up, your little one should be able to sit and eat at a table for a meal. Now, here's my experience on this. Lots of families are really relaxed with breakfast and lunch, and sometimes they allow their kids to kind of graze, come back, grab a bite, go and play, come back and grab a bite. My challenge to you is to think about the end in mind, right? What is the experience going to be for them in preschool? At preschool, the food is put before them. If they get up from the table and move to go do something else, their food goes away. So helping them to understand when you're sitting at the table, you're eating. If you don't want to eat anymore and you get up to go play, that's fine, but the food will be gone. So practicing and getting your children used to the idea that 1, we sit at a table to eat. We don't just get to walk around with our food. And 2, I need to eat while I'm there because when I get up, these grown-ups think for some reason that I'm done. So start practicing that with your toddler so that as they go into the preschool environment, they're going to be like, okay, this is just like at home with mom and dad. In keeping with the mealtime theme, your child should also be able to use utensils independently. So they should be able to feed themselves with a spoon and a fork. Oh, look, there's Arya. She likes this one. Talking about feeding. She's not supposed to be on the couch. She's so naughty. Anyhow, they should be able to use utensils independently. So that's a great thing to start practicing with your toddler. You know, using a spoon and using a fork, they're really complex motor planning skills. So they're going to need lots and lots of practice if they're going to get good at that. So I usually suggest to parents starting with a spoon, starting with a really thick kind of food where they're going to get some on that spoon no matter what, like using pudding or yogurt or applesauce or oatmeal. So think about, again, the end in mind. They're going to need to be able to use a spoon when they get to school. And again, in keeping with meals and snack times, they should be able to drink from an open-lidded cup. So now I want to say, unless your child has some really serious issues with suck swallow and feeding, most preschools, they're going to have kids drinking out of small little cups or using straws. So that is something to think about for your child, getting them used to the idea of drinking from an open-lidded cup. Now, I usually suggest to the families that I'm working with that they start with meals in high chairs. So if your little one is sitting in their high chair, like for breakfast or lunch and dinner, that maybe you give them a small little plastic cup. I like to use the lids from like the NyQuil containers, and just you always use water. If they dump it out, oh, I guess you're all done, and the cup goes away. There's a lot of coordination that has to take place and sensory input that goes into drinking from an open-lidded cup. From a speech standpoint, it also helps with the development of the muscles and using more of the front of the mouth, both with an open-lidded cup as well as using a straw. So start having your little one practice from drinking from an open-lidded cup during meals, at tables, and in the high chair. Next up, your little one should have an understanding of turn taking. Now, I didn't say that they're going to like turn taking, but they should have an understanding of it. And a lot of times I talk to parents about the fact that turn taking is something that really needs to be taught to our children. So I suggest that you practice doing this during your play. Over time, they will begin to understand the concept, which is going to make it so much easier for them when they're at school and interacting with peers. So for example, with crayons, toddlers are great at always wanting to have all the crayons. So if you have a crayon and your toddler has a crayon and they try to take your crayon, you say, oh, you want to turn with this crayon? Then I get to turn with your crayon, and you take their crayon. And you just keep going back and forth with that. It's a great way to start introducing the idea of turn taking. The next skill is pretend play. So it would be expected that a preschooler would be starting to do some pretend play. And most kids kind of naturally move towards pretend play, but there are some where it has to be demonstrated for them. So you want to model things related to daily routines, such as taking a nap or eating or drinking or playing with dolls and animal figures during play with your child. So for example, many years ago, I had a little girl. I brought over a farm kit on the home visit, and all she did was put the cows in and out, in and out. And her mom was like, she plays with everything like this. So I modeled using some of the farm animals. Oh, he's taking a nap. Shh. Oh, he wants to eat. Num, 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 num. Oh, he's having a drink. Once I modeled during this play with the farm animals that these farm animals do the same thing that you do every day in your daily routines, she took off with it and she started really moving into pretend play. Now, if you are wondering a little bit more and want more information on play, then I'm going to suggest that you go to my video, Speech and Play, where I talk about the different stages of play. Next up, your little one should have some experience being away from you. Separation anxiety is big, and over the years, I've had many families whose little ones started school, and it was their very first time ever being away from mom and dad. To say that it was overwhelming for their little one is an understatement. And I think especially now so with COVID, a lot of kids really haven't had a chance to go out and be in unstructured environments where they have more opportunity to be away from their parents. So you want to start thinking about that. If you're going to send your child to a classroom-based preschool program, you want to slowly get them used to the idea of being separate from you. So you can practice that by going to the library, to one of the story times, as I suggested. The little one can go play, and you're still there, and you can just encourage them, go play, have a good time, while keeping an eye on them, of course, so that they can gradually get used to the idea of, I'm with my parent, I go and I play, and then we go home. Or even taking your child to, if you know what school they're going to attend, finding out from the administration if this is allowable. But like where I'm from, a lot of the schools are like, hey, bring your kids here and play after school hours or on the weekends. So taking them to the school that they're going to attend and playing out on the playground if they have one, and always saying, we're going to go play at your school. It starts to help them understand what school is. It's this building that's super fun, that has lots of fun activities. Find out if the school offers any play groups so that you can take your child to the play groups at the school that they're going to be attending so that they can become familiar with it. Next up, your little one should have the ability to focus on a task of interest for a reasonable amount of time. So I want to say that the attention span for a 2-year-old, the average is about 4 to 6 minutes. The average attention span for a 3-year-old is about 6 to 8 minutes. So if your child struggles with focusing on tasks, you might want to introduce some sensory play like a rice box or water play, because sensory play is a great way to build attention and keep those movers and shakers who can't seem to sit still to stay in one spot a little bit longer. Dressing skills. Preschool teachers would love it if your little one came to school and was able to pull up or pull down their own pants. So you want to work on those self-dressing skills. I know it's easier for us a lot of times when we're trying to get our kiddos out the door to just go ahead and do those things for them, putting their coats on, putting their boots and their shoes on. But it's really important for them to learn how to do those skills on their own with your support and your coaching, because it really helps build their self-confidence when they can do those things. And, a teacher in a classroom with 20-some preschoolers, when they're going inside and outside for playground and recess and things like that, the more independent your child can be, the more they can focus on the learning and get to the tasks at hand at school. So work on some self-dressing skills with your toddler at home. Preschoolers should be able to handle transitions. Now, transitioning from one activity to the next can be hard for young kids. So preschoolers should be able to handle lots of transitions without too much fuss. We're not saying that they're going to like all of those transitions, but they should be able to transition from, okay, we're all done with snack time, and now it's time to move on to free play, which usually isn't one that they struggle with. Or that it's time to pick up the toys because we are going to do circle time or go to the library. So you want to work on transitions with your little one at home. And one of the tools that a lot of the preschool teachers use are visual schedules, where they have pictures of all the different activities that are going to happen during the child's time there. And the teacher will reference that frequently as the day progresses. So I'm a big fan of using visual schedules with toddlers and preschoolers at home to help prepare them for that. Kids seem to do a lot better sometimes when we have that visual that they can look at. So I will put down below a link to a visual picture schedule video, as well as to the Etsy store where I have a visual picture schedule available for purchase. But visual picture schedules are a great way to help kids with transitions. And finally, most preschool programs require that their preschoolers be potty trained. Now, where I live, that is different if a child is eligible for special education services. Most of those programs do not require that they be potty trained, but in general, most preschools, private or public, require that children be potty trained. I will put a link down below to a great resource that shares 7 signs that your child might be ready to be potty trained. So there you have it. Those are the top skills identified by the preschool teachers that I have interviewed over the years that they would like to see kids have in place when they start preschool. And notice, none of those were academic skills. Preschool is a place where children are learning how to be a student. They're just learning about the routines and what happens in this place and what kinds of activities we do. Of course, there's learning infused in those routines, but that's really where children are learning about how to be a student, to prepare them and give them that strong foundation so that when they go into elementary school, where they have to do the real hard work, that they already are prepared and know the drill. So I hope you found that helpful. If you did, make sure that you give the like button a boot. That helps me get out in front of other parents. I've also put down below a link where if you would like a PDF download of this preschool checklist, you can just click and sign up for it there. All right, you guys, that's it. Until next time.